You know, the best way for us to keep track of our kids' progress in school, of course, are grades, test grades, report card grades. But a new study from Gallup and a nonprofit called Learning Heroes shows that parents think kids are doing much better than they actually are, and grades aren't really an accurate reflection of everything. So let's bring in Tracy Pott. She is on the advisory board of Learning Heroes, and you might recognize her. She was a reporter on NBC News. Tracy, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to be back, Christy. And I love talking about this because it's so important for all of us parents to really understand what's really happening with grades in our kids.
All right, so why don't you go ahead and tell me, I'm teaming up with Gallup to be able to do this polling. What did you guys find on this?
So the big picture is this: 90% of parents say they think their kids are on grade level. But when we teamed up with Gallup, we looked at the nation's report card and other measures of actual academic achievement. What we found, Christy, was about a third of kids, in fact, just shy of a third, are actually performing on grade level in reading and math. In some areas like DC, where I am, it's as little as 10% of children in math. So there's this massive disconnect between what parents are thinking based on those report cards that you talked about and what the grades actually show, and what the test scores are actually showing in terms of our kids' achievement.
I think it was really interesting during the pandemic. I know when my kids came home and were doing their schoolwork there, it was the first time that parents could really see actually how their kids were learning, what they were doing and what they were understanding. And the second part of that is when they came back, it seemed like the grading had eased a little bit, that teachers and school districts were a little bit more generous with what those letter grades were, knowing full well the duress that a lot of kids and families were under in trying to learn from the pandemic. So coming out of that now, is that what we're dealing with?
It's part of what we're dealing with for sure. And look, teachers were the heroes in this, no question. I mean, they had to learn overnight. How do you teach kids over, a computer online compared to what we have been doing in person in the classroom? But what we are realizing now is that those grades represent a lot more than just whether your child is on grade level. So is your child participating in class? That's a really good thing, but that is reflected in the grades. If they're raising their hand a lot, is your child turning in their homework? That's certainly a great thing. However, the homework's not always graded, I found out. And so it's not necessarily reflecting if your child is where they need to be. Lots of things, how hard are they trying? What's their progress? So if they come into third grade, reading on a first grade level, and now they're reading on a second grade level, that's huge progress. But they've still got somewhere to go. So when you see that B on a report card, it's a really safe grade, and parents don't tend to ask questions. They tend to think, okay, my kid's getting a B, everything is fine. Everything is not necessarily fine. And so that's what this campaign is about. We really want parents to go beyond grades and take a look at what is my child's actual achievement.
So, Tracy, what would be some of your advice, I guess, for parents to start to engage with their teachers? I mean, sometimes we have conferences maybe twice a year, and we do know that we can try to, email the teachers, or that they're very busy, they've got a lot of kids. But what would your advice be in terms of how a parent should interact with their teacher?
So first of all, the thing that you said, parents should interact with their teacher. And there are a lot of reasons why parents don't. Parents are busy, parents are working, parents don't feel empowered. Sometimes culturally, our cultures are very different when it comes to approaching education. Sometimes we think school does its thing, I do my thing at home. What we're really trying to encourage parents to do is ask a simple but very specific and very important question to the teacher or teachers. Is my child on grade level, right? Not, how's my kid doing in class? That's what that's what I asked as a parent,
Yeah.
right? How's my kid doing? But what you really want to ask very specifically is my child on grade level? Because that's a different question. It may bring a different answer, and it opens that relationship and that conversation with the parent and the teacher so they can work together to support children's success.
Tracy, is there a difference when we talk about kids in elementary school and then when we're getting to the middle high school level on how you engage with your kids' teachers?
Yeah, a couple of things. So teachers, right? Usually in elementary school, they have one, maybe sometimes as they get older, two or three. By the time they get to high school, they've got several teachers. So there are several different questions that you need to ask of different people. The other thing is including the child or the teenager at that point in this process, giving them some agency. They need to understand where they are and what questions need to be asked so that they can be part of that process.
Yeah, that was going to be my next part of it because I have teenagers as well. And sometimes, when you ask a yes or no question, that's deadly. But asking them how they feel about how they're learning, or do they, in a different way, engaging the child with you in the process as well as the teacher is going to make it a better rounded thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have young adults who were teenagers not that long ago. And sometimes it's like, how was your day? Fine, right? It's really hard to pull that out of them. That's part of the reason why we need to have that relationship with the teachers and go beyond grades, because the grades are great. We're not saying grades are a bad thing. We're saying that grades include a lot of different things that parents aren't always aware of. And we need to have that conversation with the teachers so we know what that B really means. Does it mean my kid is where they need to be, or does it mean that they're working hard, or is it some combination of that?
Yeah, and so we can also support them as much as we can at home as well. Tracy Potts on the advisory board of Learning Heroes. It's great to see you. We appreciate the time.